off the
Okay.
record.
Yeah.
This
Yep.
before the show. This is the pre-show. This the party before the show. It's the before the show. We just chatting it up and we letting
But
people in our business because
yeah,
we having real conversations about um
real stuff.
manifesting, right? Like we wanted everybody to know what we had learned about ACEs.
Right. And ACEs has such, even on this journey, it's so challenging to go back to that inner child and deal with ACEs. So sometimes it's too much, and I'm flight, right? I gotta go. I can't even do this. I know I can't do this. It's too much,
Mhm.
But ACE, it shows how important it is to heal it and work on it and work through it. And what you created is a space for us to do that, to be open about our childhood experiences, the not so good ones, and even the good ones too. But we focus on the not so good ones because we understand the effects that it's had on our lives and still today. So
Yeah.
you created a safe space and you pour back before people even did anything, which is like unheard of. It's like I got a mentor, I got somebody that called me and talked to me that's in my field. Like that is so gangster. That is just so top of the line. So thank you.
You see how God used you just then because I was thinking I laugh because they say tell God your plans or whatever and he gonna start laughing at
Yeah.
you. It's gonna start laughing at you, right? So I
Yeah.
had manifested in my mind like I want to tell people about ACEs and I don't want to have to wait until I get wherever there is. Like I want to heal with other people. And then one of the
Okay.
messages that came loud and clear at the very, very beginning, which people who run businesses would laugh at this, I was told at some point in 2021 to just give it away. Give away the knowledge. And I didn't know what that meant. And I was like, well, no, I need to eat. So I'm having these two conversations in my head. I'm like, I need to eat. What you mean give it away? And I
Hey,
swear,
you know what I just thought about? Hold on. Remember when we went to the conference and the guy, he was the first speaker on here. And he was like,
Curtis Childs. Curtis Childs.
you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Finish your thought. Sorry.
No, that was funny. Anyhow, so it's funny that we have our own manifestations, and I think my biggest learning is like making sure we doing it for the right reason, right? Like if we putting ourselves out there, our stories out there, we basically what looks like from the outside looking in, throwing our parents or our caregivers under the bus by revealing, you know, things that have happened in our lives. Because if we take said information to the grave, right, as generations in the past have done, if you keep doing what you always do, you're going to get what you
You're gonna
always
keep
got. And I think
right.
somebody called that like insanity or whatever. So it's like we had
It
to make
is.
a decision like, okay, so anyhow, I was told to give it away free. And I just wanted to bring people along. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't want to be the only one out here talking about ACEs. And so that's how the Reach Your Academy kind of evolved. Like I was just meeting people who was like, yeah, all of a sudden just start pouring their stories out to me the moment I told them what ACEs were. People just be like, well, let me tell you what happened in my childhood. And so that's how we all got together
See,
because we just
but
started talking about.
it's an awesome space though, but you definitely have to be ready for it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You definitely have to be ready to put in the work because I can't go in front of 20 people, 10 people, one other person and talk about their ACEs and I can't relate. I relate to them because I can say, you know what, we our first ever had
I'm
happened.
losing it.
This is what in my mind and my heart. And I can just
Key, I don't know if it's me, but I think we breaking up. I see somebody else
come
is
up.
logged in. Well, okay, you're back. You froze for a minute. I lost you for like 90 seconds at least. At least 90 seconds.
Oh, well, here
I didn't miss the whole. You probably had a whole good sermon. So I don't know if it's mine or yours, but we're going to find out. Am I freezing? You said no. Hey, hey, Shoshana. I see you. Peace to you too. You see somebody's chatting to us. Shakila, you cutting out. I don't know if you can hear me, but you cutting out.
Oh Lord.
Now you back. There you back. You back.
Okay. I gotta hold this phone then.
I see Ruby's coming in on camera tonight. Hey. Hey,
Ruby.
Hey,
we can hear you, Ruby. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
I'm not ready to be seen yet.
Okay. We can hear you as long as we can hear you. She said, I'm not meant to. What is that they used to tell us? Kids are meant to be seen, not heard.
Seen, not heard.
I'm not sure if I'm.
Be quiet. You're supposed to be seen, not heard.
I'm from that generation.
You're supposed to be seen, not heard. But Shakila, thank you. So the dream didn't manifest the way I pictured, and again, I would say that was Future's way of saying, of reminding us our place, in my opinion, on this healing journey, right? Like not trying to go too fast, too soon. Like you said, we got to be ready for it, right? And if we always do what we always done, which was, I think, where we got cut off, it just reminded me that ain't nothing new under the sun, right? And if everybody is out looking for somebody to be a leader, we're going to be waiting a long time to start healing as a world. And that's why when you and I kind of like just really clicked, I was like, Shakila, you are the solution. You are a part of the solution. You can see the problem because you're on the other side of it now. And so that means if you are blessed or privileged enough to get on the other side and be able to see from this part of Jacob's ladder, if you will, Right. That means you are a part of the solution to bring somebody else up. And I think how this Reach Your Academy started was like, we all realize that we have some form of ACEs and we all have somewhere else we're trying to go. So the idea was like, create some friends, but then also put a mirror in our face. I think this program really put a mirror in my face. I don't know if it did that for you, but just some of the other people that I've chatted with offline since we've started, like facing your ACEs makes you put a mirror in your face.
No, it of course, yes, of course. That's why I say you have to be ready to do the work. It's not a dictate. It's not, this is what this is. And it's like, I'm healing mine, and because I'm healing mine and I've done this class, I'm able to help you and walk you through this journey because I have, and I wouldn't have had it without you. So
it's one person at a time, right? So just think like we don't have to wait until we have, hey, Beyonce status, right?
I know you bad.
Hey. There we go. Shoshana said we ready to go, and dig deep. So we just chatting it up, Ruby, on our last day of the summer of our Reach Your Academy, and it's been, y'all. We've been rolling for 12 months now, like when we first started talking till our very first class was in August. So a couple months into that, I just remember like wanting to get a lot of people together who was healing. We was all stuck in the house anyway. Y'all remember that? For quite a while, we were stuck in the house in 2020, most of 2020, right? Right. Was it most 2020? Anyhow, hey, Ruby.
Hey, lady. How's it going? Yeah, it's been, I guess, a year since you and I met.
Yeah. We were in that class together at that one college. Remember? We were at that nonprofit event.
Yeah, quantitative data collection or something like that.
Yeah, that because of smart people. We was just up in there being all extra. Yeah, we was just like, we just knowledge worms. Hey, Matt, welcome, Matt. Good to see you. Good to see you.
It's Matt here. Hey, Matt.
Yeah, we got some people checking in, watching from behind the scenes. So. Yeah, whole full evolution. Ruby, what's been helpful for you since coming to this place of this information, since coming to this place? Like, what's been helpful for you on this journey so far with what I like to call the yellow brick rabbit hole?
I think just being involved in the Reacher program has been nice because I like I really liked in the beginning, like it was really nice. I felt like we had a really close knit like cohort, so we are just kind of starting out. We were all trying to figure things out. So we had like this really close knit little cohort. And then which was actually kind of nice. We kind of tapered to more of like the monthly, but it still kept like the accountability. I've loved all the speakers, and I think a lot of it has been like some of the information has been new, and some of it is really great because when you're on this healing journey, it's really helpful to have some of the stuff echoed back. So that like you're not just hearing something in isolation, that this is a collective force that's, being being explored and being talked about through lots of people over like far expanding reach of like distance. So that's been nice too, especially with the group of reachers. Like, we've got some here in Florida, we've got people over here in California, we've got people over here in on like our group level, but then all of our speakers as well have been, in various places, throughout the the country, and some of them dabbling in some things like even like overseas. That one man, once he was doing some work with,
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're talking about that had the accent. Come to me, goodness.
Yeah, there are a couple different people who are, so anyways, that's just been nice and comforting. And I think it also it makes it so like it normalizes the usage of this language, and normalizes even like saying like ACEs. So like it's more of like it's more of like a household term of sorts. So like when I see it again in something else that I'm looking at, or like in my situation, I'm going through a divorce, and so I had to take my like parenting class, and I was like, they actually talked about ACEs in the on the online course, and I thought, oh, I gotta tell Cindy about that. So they, because it's like an online course already like pre-recorded, but they mentioned, ACEs and how that affects, you, and how that's going to affect your kids and things like that. So it was nice to have the word ACEs, I guess, be kind of normalized as well.
Doesn't it feel good to be in a space when like somebody bring it up and you're like, yeah, your pride kind of kicks in, your ego kicks in, like, yeah, I'm kind of familiar with that already. It kind of feels good to be amongst the circle that mostly only doctors were talking about at one point.
Yeah.
Like, the information has become mainstream. So it's like, speaking of doctors, we're going to have a couple of people from the medical industry speaking to our group tonight. But it feels good to feel like we can stay in conversation with people who wrote a big old study, and we can like speak to it because it's our experience, right? Like, oh yeah, I totally relate to that you wrote about in that Pediatric Journal of Medicine, right? Like, it feels kind of cool. And we didn't even have to go back to school to do that. So that's pretty exciting. Let's do this real quick. I know you have another meeting to get to, y'all, and we're going to kick it off because I can see that we've got a few people watching. And then we've got Grace Medical Home has checked in. They just probably getting their stuff together in the background. And it's just going to be a conversation with our friends from Orlando, Florida, who have a hospital system dedicated to providing medical care and all wraparound type of services to people who do not have access to health insurance. They reach the entire family when it comes to not just what the physical body needs, but they address the mind, the body, and the soul. It just took one person to say, I want a hospital, and he manifested it. I want a hospital to look like this, where they don't have to have insurance. They may need to see an eye doctor or a dentist or a social worker or a gynecologist. We got it all. And you don't even have to have insurance. We won't turn you away. Wow. So somebody manifested that and brought that to Orlando. And what makes the relationship unique to us tonight is that I met them because I was out having conversations about ACEs. And lo and behold, that medical community got information, got a hold of this information on ACEs, and then they wanted everybody that they came into contact with at this hospital to also know about it. So can y'all see like how a hospital is making progress by including the conversation about ACEs when they're treating families? Because the idea is that you can't fix what you don't know is there.
Yeah.
And they have like the cool, safest way of doing it. And so I was like, they're going to be our last guest, since all of us going to end up in the hospital at some point. On our deathbed. Hey, I need to tell you about my ACEs before I go. Before I go, I need to tell you about my ACEs. Everybody else been taking theirs to the grave, and to the grave no more. We are not letting our ACEs go to the grave. We putting it out there so we can help the next generation and leave this place better than we found it. Can the church say amen? Church say amen. Church say amen. Okay, Shaquila, I know you got to go, but you want to do some grounding or some breathing with us before we bring our guests on, because we got a deep conversation tonight, fun deep conversation tonight. But this will actually be the second time I've taken a break today. So Keisha, Ruby, y'all want to get some? We can turn our cameras off, leave them on, close our eyes.
Oh yeah, y'all can turn
however we want to do it. But Shaquila, you got the mic, and I'm gonna come off camera. Bring us to grounding so we can be able to receive the word that we've been brought tonight.
Thank you. So, hi, my name is Shaquila Roberts. I'm founder of Determine Now, also executive director of Meditate with She. And it's my honor to do a quick breathing exercise or a de-stressor, starting this event off. I'm gonna call it an event because it's a big deal. This is a big deal what we're doing. So I'm gonna cut my camera off too, because I don't want you looking at me. Eyes are closed. And while your eyes are closed, just want you to breathe normally. Consider, what do you hear? What do you see? What do you smell? What do you taste? What do you feel? And is it a gut feeling, or are you holding something in your hand? Get in tune with your senses. They're going to usher us into the present moment, which is the gift. So we take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, and release. Another deep breath in through your nose as slowly as possible, and release. Another deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, and release. Just stay in this silence. Allow the thoughts to slow down. This moment is for you. This time, when you take a deep breath, I'd like you to bring your shoulders to your ears on your inhale. Inhale. Hold. And then on your exhale, you're going to release everything. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Body should be at a calm state, relaxed state. I have one affirmation for you. You are already enough. You are already enough. You are already enough. Now accept that affirmation with a deep breath. Hold and release. You can seal this meditation with Ashe, Amen. So it is, so let it be, whatever feels comfortable for you. And you can open your eyes slowly. Wiggle your toes, your fingers. Come back into the present moment. And every time you have a doubt, I want you to say, I am already enough. Thank you for sharing time and space with me today. And as always, it is my hope that our time together has helped lighten your load in some way.
That was beautiful, Shakila. I'm about to drop your social media or website or LinkedIn. I want people to be able to, your YouTube. I should drop your YouTube because you got some pre-recorded videos up there. Your voice is so calming. I want people to have access to you like we have access to you. So when you get free fingers, can you comment or drop a chat?
Yes.
Drop a chat so I can put it across the screen. Shoshana, thank you for being here with us tonight, sister. Much love, much love, much love. Let me see who we got. We're going to be ready in a minute. Grace, can y'all hear us in the background? Let us know if y'all can hear us. I got you on, but your camera's on.
Yes, we're here.
Perfect.
We're trying to finish some things before.
Take your time. Y'all have access to that little private chat down there. Let us know when you're ready. We're gonna go. I'm gonna put y'all on the pedestal first. So take your time in the background, and then when you're ready, drop a comment or a chat or whatever, and we'll get you guys back on camera.
No, whenever you're ready for us, just let us know.
Okay, we'll be back.
Okay.
Hey, Keisha, welcome back. We can still hear you. So just I'm gonna mute your mic unless you want to come back on camera. Just let me know, Shakila.
No.
Okay, there you are. You're back. And then there's your website. So if y'all want to get some meditation with that, man, that's so helpful. That stuff really works. Like just turning our brain off. How was that for you?
Yeah, I like to know how was it?
I needed that, especially the shoulder one. I did that shoulder one right as you said.
Yeah,
I tried to bring it all the way up. We be so tense.
Don't even realize it.
We be holding all that tension and wondering why we be snapping on people. You are tense.
Yes.
Go breathe with she. Go breathe with she because you are so tense. So you
and imagine doing that.
Imagine doing that. We always walk around here shrugging our shoulders. I don't know, real quick. No, let's take some time and breathe with it. Yes. Hey, Keisha Mason Campbell. Let's let people know what you do too. Let's let people know what you do. Why don't you drop your website in the chat? Because I know you just launched some classes to help women realize that no is a complete sentence. Boundaries, baby. Boundaries, baby.
Yes, I sure did. It's called Prioritize Me workshop that I just hosted, and I'm going to do another one the second week in July, and in August I'm going to do an in-person one. So I'll drop the link to that. Let me get it for you.
Are you telling your people that's coming into the boundaries? Or you kind of sliding in there like we need to be addressing like our ACEs and stuff? Because that's probably where our boundaries got off balance. Do you bring it up at all in your classes?
I bring it up, and I bring it up in a way where I share with you how your boundaries have been violated and you don't realize it, and you become so accustomed to your boundaries being violated that you just move like it's on autopilot. And then when we put that mirror in front of you and you're like, wow, I don't want to do this. I don't feel like doing that. Like I'm not comfortable with 1, 2, and 3, but you don't realize that your boundaries have been so violated that you just become okay with doing all the things. And with ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences, we begin to experience those as children. So as an adult, when it becomes a trigger, right, you begin to just do it on autopilot. So we touch on some of that. We talk about 5 different stages, and we touch on the ACEs in some of those areas, because it does derive from our childhood. And when we have that trigger, it's almost like, so say Ruby, I say to you, I'm like, Ruby, you're going to take me to the store because I need to go pick up a few things. And the way that we're talked to as kids, you're told that you were seen and I heard. When they tell you to do something, you're supposed to do it. So when I say that to you, that almost activates the fact that, let me get my keys. All right, I'll take you. Instead of pausing, right? Give yourself a 5-second pause and say, no, I'm not taking you to the store. You might need to go, but listen, let me help you find another ride because I'm not taking you. And that's something I think a lot of people don't realize. They act like when that activation happens, I've got to show up. I've got to do it. And they don't know how to set the boundaries and say, wait a minute, not today. Not today.
I appreciate that. That. Ruby, I'm going to hear from you too. I'm going to add Keisha's page here. Not your journey to take. It is not your journey to take, honey.
No, it's not.
So prioritize yourself. And what came up for me, Keisha, when I think about boundaries, I attribute a lot of my renewed mind to just being in a space with you. Because like when I hear you talk, I'm thinking, oh, okay, that was a seed. I was supposed to hear that, right? I realized through my studies of all of the ologies and like going down the rabbit hole to understand ACEs, that our nervous systems are a little different, right? Like that sometimes they can be a little antsy. They started to label it. As a matter of fact, I was an adult ADD patient or ADHD patient. Like I just couldn't sit still. So I finally had to take pills for it. I bring that up to say at some point, I'm not on the pills anymore, but that was the only diagnosis, like where I couldn't focus and whatever. So of course, later on, I'm learning like, oh, because I was always on autopilot, just like going, not taking time to give my nervous system a break and meditate and breathe and be less tense. And I bring that up again, I'm sorry to say. We have to have boundaries, especially if we have systems that are set up like that. Otherwise, we would not get anything in life accomplished. Because we're going to always be feeling like we're out of whack, if that makes sense. So you have to learn how to set boundaries, and you have to teach that to yourself, especially if you're coming from a place where your boundaries were given to you. That makes sense. Who else we got? Hey, Ronisha's here. Again, that's Keisha Mason Campbell, notyourjourneytotake.com/prioritize me. Ruby, you are here in Florida, and we've known you, and I think you'd be okay with us sharing this because you talked a little bit about it at the top of the call, but your babies are currently experiencing one of the ACEs as you talk about like your divorce and what that has been like. How has this been for you as a parent going down this journey, learning about your own ACEs and then also raising 2 kids under the age of 7?
Well, I think that's after giving birth to my first daughter, who just turned 7, that I've been doing self-development work for a long time. But after having my my first child, that is when I really had to dive in a lot deeper. And I continue to do that. And that is an overlapping theme in a lot of parenting books, and a lot of parenting things is about having boundaries as a parent. And that makes you a stronger parent, and that makes you a better a better guide for your children. And then in my personal life, I started discovering that, and that kind of highlighted a lot of discrepancies or lack of balance between my partner and I, which did end up resulting in some domestic violence. And now we're in a divorce, which is full of a lot of manipulation and control, and having to deal with the legal system as well, which is really challenging when you're dealing with a very strong patriarchal system that is very oppressive in nature. So yeah, I mean, I think knowing about this, it's also helped me give myself and all of these people maybe a little bit more grace as well, of trying to remember that, even though they are, kind of victimizing a lot of people, it's usually because they have a lot of aces. So that's where, like, me recognizing my own aces, I can say, well, I'm healing and trying to give them grace. Like, I don't, to set that boundary, and say, like, hey, I don't have to deal with your, the result of your aces, but it helps me give them more grace to remember, hurt people. And that everybody's pretty messed up.
I think that's one of the most beautiful things we get out of this is that when you're on and when you can like notice, Ruby, like notice some of the things that's triggering you, you can catch it quicker, right? And you don't have to be one of those hurt people that's hurting people or going back and forth. We lost Renisha. Come back, Renisha, if you can hear us.
Yeah, and
I could see you, but we couldn't hear. I could see we're on there, but I couldn't see your camera. But that's been what's been most helpful for me going down this journey.
Well, yeah, it's super, like, as a parent too, like when I am like triggered or I'm in this escalated state with this, continued sense of self-awareness, I can separate myself and be like, my children are not giving me a hard time, they're having a hard time, and remembering and separating myself from, this need to control them and react. And then I've also had a lot of situations where, like, I allow my children to express their emotions, and different generations are very offended at me because I realized that they were not allowed to express their emotions. So they're feeling triggered by this whole scene and trying to give them grace as well. And I'm doing the right thing. I need to remain steadfast. And that's where, like, creating more boundaries too, because there's a lot of people who want to come in and criticize and give me a lot of unsolicited advice. And so that's where those boundaries I have to continue to be stronger and stronger and stronger, because that's where sometimes that unsolicited advice comes in, because they can see that I'm not, that I'm wavering a little and that I'm still learning because I'm shaky, because I'm not, my children are 4 and 7, just turned 7. So I'm still learning. I'm still developing, my boundaries as a parent, and even my boundaries of when I'm allowing them to experience these really big emotions, that I have to create another shield of boundary. So my boundary between my children's emotions not affecting me. And then if it's in public, I have to create another boundary of other people's feelings about my children's feelings.
It's like layers to it, as the donkey said on Shrek. There's layers to it. Layers to it. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Ruby. Y'all, let's do this. We have some amazing people in the background waiting on us. So I did give a little shout out, but for people who may not be familiar with adverse childhood experiences and may get a chance to watch this video, the replay, for our reachers that are not able to be here tonight, we know adverse childhood experiences is a lot more to it. So Ruby, while you were talking, I threw this thing up here. Like, adverse childhood experiences is actually bigger than just the childhood. I like to look at adverse childhood experiences not in isolation, but from, basically what I'm saying is, will the real ACE stand up? Because our guests tonight are coming to us with experience from the medical side of things. And so some of our lessons that we've learned from one of our faves, Ruby, is like Gabor Mati and Dr. Bruce Lipton, who talk about what trauma does to us at a cellular level and how trauma can be passed down epigenetically. And so we got adverse cellular experiences. And then one of the other biggest things that's come out of me just going down this yellow brick rabbit hole is, oh my goodness, the colon experiences so much damage when it comes to childhood trauma, that later on these diseases are being misdiagnosed because we're not considering the trauma. Not to pretend to be a doctor, but just repeating a lot of what we hear from Gabor and Bruce Lipton. And even Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey talking about the diseases that are related to our childhood. So adverse cerebral, adverse colonial, for those of us who grew up in families that come from generations of slavery and genocide and just horrible things being done to people. How deep does it go? And then, of course, adverse community experiences, church, college, career, and corporation. So there's so much more to learning about ACEs than just ACEs themselves, because where does the trauma start and stop? And how many people will it take to get involved in the conversation for us to collectively find creative ways to address this? So without further ado, I want to say, I really wasn't sure Michelle and Nirvana were so happy to have you here. Michelle, Cash, and Nirvana, I know you're here to represent yourself tonight, but I wanted to share with the audience that I had a chance to visit the hospital system that you work with, and I felt loved. Like all of my little cells were just happy cells were just going off when I walked in that hospital, because you could tell that it was designed to really care about people and to put people's health needs over profitability. And I felt that from the moment I walked in. And then, of course, to learn about the conversations that happen around ACEs, when the people who are visiting the hospital are ready to talk about it, how that one act of kindness will impact generations to come. That one act of kindness, that one act of strategy. I don't know how big you all wanted it to be, but to me, I think that's planting seeds and allowing the roots a chance to thrive beyond what has been left to us because of colonial experience and just past generational trauma. So one of the things that comes up with this local organization is that an undebatable statement, I would agree with this, is that addressing social determinants of health is fundamentally important for improving health and reducing long-standing disparities in health and healthcare. Reduction requires removing obstacles to health, such as poverty, discrimination, and their consequences. At this particular hospital, they are committed to working toward health equity and addressing the racial, societal, and economic factors that influences people's health. Please welcome Michelle Cash and Nirvana Muniz to the ACEs Matter Reacher residency class. And this is where we do this like cool round of applause. We got a couple people watching from the background, but for those of us that can be on camera, we learn either way. So you'll just see some in and out. But hi, y'all.
Hello.
Hi.
I wanted y'all to tell a little bit more about yourself, because obviously, I mean, y'all have got your own personal journeys behind the work experience and the things that you're contributing to as far as the hospital is concerned. But please take the microphone and tell us a little bit about who you are and like how this whole evolution of ACEs has helped you on a personal and professional level. Could we start there?
Yeah.
And welcome. Hey, welcome.
Thank you. I can start because I feel like Nirvana's gonna take off and do the presentation after we introduce ourselves. But I'm Michelle Cash. I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner, and I have been a pediatric nurse. Was telling somebody yesterday, a new patient, for 32 years, and I have been a pediatric nurse practitioner for 27. And I've worked in a lot of different areas, but absolutely love working with the population here at Grace Medical Home. And we are an outpatient clinic that is multidisciplinary. We really look holistically at our patients. And when Grace Medical Home opened 13 years ago, or 14 almost, and Dr. Hardy, who's the pediatrician that I'm very fortunate to work with, asked me to come on board. And he said to me, I want the poor in our community to get good health care. I don't know why the poor in our community can't get excellent health care. And I said, I'm in. And Grace has changed and grown over the years. But one thing has stayed steady, I feel like, and that is I really do feel very strongly that we give excellent health care. And in all aspects, mental health, physical health, spiritual health. And I do feel like our great. Our clinic does feel like a home to many of our patients. And, you know, people get confused. They're like, Grace Medical Home, do people live there? And I'm like, no, a medical home is where you're known. And we do know our patients. And we all work together as a team to love and care for our patients. And I feel like ACEs has been a hot topic for many years in pediatrics, and often in private practice, pediatricians kind of avoid it because they don't have the time. They have 15 minutes per patient. They don't have the time to delve into it. And fortunately here at Grace, we do. It is a real gift, the time that we have with our patients. And Nirvana started talking about it, and I read Dr. Burke's book, and I was, so 2 summers, was it 2 summers?
ago.
2 summers ago, I read Dr. Burke's book, and I couldn't put it down. And I was like, there is something to this. And I feel like our population really needs it. So that's kind of where, but Nirvana had been doing the legwork way before I read Dr. Burke's book 2 years ago. So I'm gonna let her take over.
So I'm Nirvana Muniz, and I'm an LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker. I started, my first internship was at the Juvenile Assessment Center here in Orange County. And so just working there, knowing about the trauma that those children go through that gets them where they are, right? There, and seeing the generations that had gone through there. It just did something, and I knew there was more to the stories of people. And so I worked with substance abuse. I ended up managing a detox for kids, worked with human trafficking survivors as well. So I've been around this topic of trauma for a long time. I went to a conference, I think it was the NASW conference in 2016, 17, and they talked about ACEs. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like that's amazing. And I cannot believe nobody's talking about this. At the time, I was working at a university with the MSW program. And so I didn't have the space at that time to really work with the population, with the clients and things like that. And so once I came to Grace, we started doing more research about it, started talking to the pediatric team about it, because I thought, a lot of the research was based on the adult ACEs. And so I thought it would be amazing if we can start preventing or at least implementing some interventions to mitigate the consequences of ACEs. So our population, we have a lot of immigrant families. And so not only do they have the violence, the abuse, the poverty in their countries, but they also travel here. And so they have extra trauma. And so that we don't think about when we read the original 10 ACEs, right? Like you were saying, Cindy, there's a lot more than just those original 10. And so when we started talking about it, the team thankfully was on board and wanted to do it. And so we started meeting and really coming up with ways of really addressing it. One of the things that I really want to be clear about, I just didn't want to know the number and not do anything about it. So to me, it was important that we had options for our patients. So of course we have counseling, but one of the things we do is we let the family kind of let us know what they want. So if we had a family, for example, that the kids have a lot of, high ACEs, out of 16, they had 13, 14. The family was interested in nutrition because the oldest son was controlling his intake of food. And so mom was really worried about that. So we started with nutrition counseling first, and we didn't start clinical counseling until they felt comfortable with the nutrition piece. So that's kind of what I wanted to do from our side. The other important part for me was that the medical providers were really the first face and the ones talking about ACEs first, because I think it brings something different when a medical provider tells you this can have this consequence, right? Versus me as a clinical social worker, counselor saying, oh, you experience trauma, you're going to have consequences, depression, anxiety, all of that. But it's different when a medical provider says you can have diabetes, cancer, high blood pressure, all of these things. And so it was really important that they were the first talk about ACEs, and they do very brief psychoeducation on ACEs, and then depending on the scores, they get referred to us down here in behavioral health, and then we do the assessment, and we try to put in place the interventions that we have. And for the children, we have a little bit more interventions. We've partnered with the Orlando Ballet. So the girls have ballet classes. We've done martial arts for some of the kids. We have art classes right now. Tomorrow we'll have the little gallery show with the things that the kids have done. We're having a sensory activity with the parent and the child to promote that relationship and that collaboration between the parent and the child. And we also have trauma-focused parenting classes. So while the kids right now are doing art classes, the parents are learning about parenting through a trauma-focused lens. So we've really tried to put interventions that hopefully gives them tools and skills to and resilience, to work through it, because some of our families, even though we know we've screened them, we've done everything else, some of our families are still going through that trauma. They're still struggling with social needs. They're still struggling with abuse and neglect and things like that. And so it's important that we continue to work with them and not just do it once and that's it. So that's kind of an overview about how we're doing ACEs here at Grace, and what's been important to us, that our families have a voice, that they feel like they can tell us, I don't want counseling right now.
Yeah.
Yes, I want my child to participate in art classes, or so that's been really good, and it's just empowering. And most of them are doing a lot of the interventions and eventually come to counseling, which has been really, really good. Soon, hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have a wellness home as well, right across Grace. And so that's going to bring in the opportunities to open more interventions for both adults and children. And so we recently started screening the adults as well, our adult population. And as we knew, those numbers are even higher than children.
Yeah.
And so so we want to bring in some interventions for them as well. Mm-hmm.
Well, Keisha, I see you moving in the background, and I was going to say rock, paper, scissors, because I got something I do. You can go first. I'm going to pass the mic. Oh, that was so good, Nirvana and Michelle. Wow. Did y'all have a presentation? Because we will just ask y'all questions, and y'all can just feed us or however.
We did, but it's not necessary. Like we can answer questions.
Don't be afraid if you want to throw that thing up there to help a point. But I came up with like 5 already just from hearing that, because I want to use this platform so that others can manifest something like you all have done, right? We were talking about that before the call. Just put it out there. This is like for the good of God, like literally and figuratively, this is for the good of God. So just try something, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, it will be revealed to us what's working and what we should replicate. Yes. And now you all, congratulations. I saw that the news release about getting the wellness home. So like that, you just planted a seed and look at it grow. What lucky parents they are. Oh my goodness, Keisha. Okay, I'm gonna pass the mic. Go.
I won't ask a question just yet, but what I will say is I'm grateful and thankful to listen to you ladies. I mean, that is such a blessing in how you're showing up for the community. Now, if we can take the two of you and clone the heck out of you guys, right? Put them in every city. My gosh, to have something like that, like in Virginia, or anywhere, to be honest with you. I just happen to live in Virginia. You know how much, well, you already know, right? I'm talking to you, I'm speaking to the choir, right? You already know how much of a blessing that is to people who, can't access, and then for somebody to help clinically diagnose what's going on, having the ACEs and having somebody who respect the ACEs and can help them navigate through it, because for so long it's brushed under the rug. It's not recognized. It's not talked about. It's not even acknowledged, right?
Yeah.
And you guys have done just that and created a safe space.
Safe space.
It means so much to me in my heart.
I
Having a
was
safe
feeling it
space.
over here. I was like, oh, that's
Yes.
some lucky parents. There's some lucky parents
Absolutely.
right there.
You got that right. So if we can clone you ladies, right, in the doc,
That
and
is
put
great.
each,
And then
put
it's coming
in a
from a
city.
hospital. So y'all have to see our passion. Like, this is the medical community. Y'all got white coat street cred. They got the white
Yeah.
coat street cred. So people are going to listen to that. And especially in our culture,
Yes.
where if it didn't come from a white coat, we don't want to hear it, like, who told you that, so we're always questioning stuff, right? And like, who
Yeah.
better to start this message and not just leave it there, right? Y'all created a chain reaction, right?
Yes.
Like, we're not just going to give you this information and hope you figure it out, because you're probably going to go back home to it as soon as we leave this doctor's appointment. But here are some mitigations. Here we are as the positive childhood experiences for your children anyway, until your situation can change.
Yeah.
And you've got community people that are wrapping their arms around these children that for right now, we can't pull them out of their ACEs, but we can be positive childhood experiences for these children, or protective factors as they call it. So I think you all are building off of, ideas. I think that they trailblazed some things in California, and you guys have taken and said, look, we'll do it at this scale. This is perfect. So thank y'all for using your gifts that way.
Thank you.
It's an honor. It's an honor and a privilege to come alongside the families that are our patients, and it's painful sometimes. There are many nights I go home and my heart aches, and I wake up in the middle of the night and toss and turn and think about that child and think, oh, I hope they're okay. But it's truly an honor and a privilege. And the way that Nirvana and her team have guided the medical team really has been a beautiful thing as well. Because we do look at things medically, and they've taught us how to think outside the box. And I think just our call to this type of medicine also lends itself to helping the patients and families, because we have a very different relationship with our patients than most doctors and healthcare providers do. We enter into a relationship with them, and which can be scary because it puts your heart at risk.
Yeah.
But it's I think it's healing for them. I think it's softening for us. I think it has lots of positives.
Somebody, Keisha wants to know, have you guys thought about opening satellite offices in other states?
For a long time, Dr. Hardy has wanted to open a clinic that sees Medicaid patients. And I'm like, Dr. Hardy, we can't do that. We can't do it. But I will say we're really blessed. We just got a mobile unit. So we're going to be taking our mobile unit to our patients. We're going to where they live. And because one of our hugest barriers to care here at Grace is transportation. These precious people are just trying to put groceries on the table. They can't take a day off work to get here and there and everywhere. So we're going to try to go to them. We are a part of a group called CCHF, which has Christian medical clinics all over the nation. Do you know how many are in CCHF?
No,
But they're everywhere.
There's
They're everywhere. And that's how when Dr. Hardy was in med school, he volunteered at Good Samaritan in Atlanta, and he got the bug. And he was in a very lucrative, successful private practice in Orlando. And he was my kid's pediatrician. And he grew up with my husband, so we've always been friends. But, 15 years ago when he took my husband and I out to dinner and told us what he wanted to do, I wasn't surprised because I knew he got the bug when he was in Atlanta. So there's a huge clinic in Atlanta. There's some great ones in Chicago. They're all over. They're all over. And so it's what it stands for. I can't ever remember what it stands for.
Me either.
Hold on.
We'll find it. We're good. What was the name again?
It's CCHF. Hold on.
It's Christian Community Health Fellowship. Did you hear me?
What did you say?
Christian Community Health Fellowship.
Yes, that's it. I created all these funny names for CCHF because I can't ever remember what it really stands for. But they have, and we have there's a conference every year where all the clinics come together. And I do think we're going to be forced to present our racist stuff at some point because it needs to be getting out to the rest of them, and it needs to be incorporated into the care that all of us are giving. So.
That was one of the questions that I had as Nirvana was talking. How do we get more medical providers to begin the conversation? Because awareness is an intervention, right? Like it could go plenty of ways. We know which way it's going to go if we don't talk about it. But even if doctors created the space to give people the information to get the conversation started, like that's an intervention in itself. I personally believe that's my personal opinion. But I did an awareness party at a Juneteenth event. I guess that was last week, June 18th. I guess that was just wow, time just flies. Time flies. The most interesting thing happened. I always say, whether we get 1 or 25 people to show up, 1 is better than none. Because again, I'm thinking like this is going to cause a chain reaction, right? This is somebody's bloodline that could potentially use this information. And imagine the spread when the daughter cells split and all that, whatever. So anyhow. There was a young lady and her dad walking around. They were Caucasian people. And I guess they appeared to be lost because somebody stopped them. They were down at the SoCo marketplace. It was all Juneteenth thing. And somebody's like, can we help y'all? Are y'all? And she's like, well, we were looking for some way to get involved with Juneteenth. And so they ended up in my classroom to watch the resilience film, The Biology of Stress. Okay, so here's what makes this funny. I asked her, how did y'all end up at this event? You're more than welcome to stay. Come on, just get signed in. And she tells me that she was a pre-med student. And her dad was, he didn't disclose what type of doctor he was, but he was hanging out with his daughter because one of her assignments from her pre-med class in her undergraduate school that she's going to, University of Florida, she said that the professor said that they had to go get involved in something that involved Juneteenth. So she found herself just walking around looking for something to get involved in, and she landed in the movie film screening with us. She left so inspired as a pre-med student because she got to hear Nadine Burke-Harris say, I went to medical school all my life and I was never taught about this a day in my career or in my medical school. And when I asked her like what was most impactful from that movie, she said the fact that of the trillions of dollars that are spent in healthcare every year in the United States alone, only 5% of it is preventative. And she said, to me as a pre-med student, I have a problem with that. And so Dad, who was all choked up, he said what you said. He said what you said, Michelle. He was like, well, how do we find the time? And then what happens if people don't change was one of, and I'm putting that in my own words, but it was something to that effect, which reminded me of Nirvana saying like some of these people have to go back home to poverty, or maybe, a parent or a caregiver that is on a substance that they're misusing. Right? Like some people just have to go home to that. So I think from his perspective, that might have been where he was coming from, because it's almost like one foot in the door and the other, I guess teeter-tottering, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So he seems like it was helpful to hear, but it also felt hopeless. How do y'all deal with the hopelessness of ACEs are coming? Whether we like it or not, how do y'all deal with that when you're talking to parents?
I thought a lot about, I just want to say, and I want Nirvana to address that question specifically, but I thought a lot about how do we raise awareness in the, pediatric provider population in Orlando. I think we've got to somehow make it, I think how the way we've done it has made it easy, but you have to create guidelines for yourself. So I feel like if pediatricians could get on board in Orlando, the patient could fill out the questionnaire pretty quickly. They have a score of 3 or higher, then they're automatically referred to counseling. So in a private pediatrician's office, I think about my own family. If one of my children filled out an ACEs questionnaire and scored a 4, and my pediatrician explained it to me, I'd be finding a counselor the next day. Yeah. So, I think they just are going to have to take the time to come up with their guidelines and streamline it. But you said something that made me think, we need to get to the grassroots. And where is that? Medical school.
Premeditated. It was an accident. She fell in there and it was a complete accident.
Yeah. Med school. Go to the med schools. Do a one-day little class on ACEs. And then let them take it into their future. But pre-med, med, whatever, wherever, get to the grassroots of the providers. I will say, I think I'm a little bit of an advocate for nurse practitioners and nurses, but I think you present it to them and they'll take the ball.
Yeah, I bet I was gonna. I think I would go for the nurses. I'm going for the nurses. I'm going for the.
But I'm gonna let her answer your question.
And I think here one of the things that we do is we have a lot of gap year students, which are students that finish their bachelor's degree and are waiting to apply to medical school, dental school, nursing, whatever it is, PA, and all of that. And so every time we have a new group, I do this presentation about ACEs. So they learn about ACEs because they're going to be dealing with that. They're going to be in the rooms with the providers. And so they need to be aware of what they're talking about, right? And so we just had the orientation like a month ago. And so I went in and took time and did ACEs and social determinants of health. And so we have a group of about 15 this year, but last year we have about 25. And so those are right there, about 40 people that are going to go into the medical field and are already exposed to ACEs, have learned about it, have been in the rooms when they do the screenings. And so I think that's something, and I do it with my interns as well, with mental health counselors and social work interns, because many times they don't talk about it in the schools either, even though it should be in our, this is our field, right? Like trauma and mental health and all of that. They don't talk about it. So I do it with, I hear them more saying, oh yeah, I've heard about that. So hopefully the schools are getting on board as well and talking more about it in their programs. But I do the presentation for all the interns and gap year students at Grace. And so hopefully that's planting those seeds to when they, finish their school and going to the field, they remember. And they see it here. They meet our patients. They form relationships with our patients in a professional way. And so they see it firsthand. So
it's hard not to talk about it, especially in that industry with it being tied to so many health outcomes. It's hard not to bring it up.
Exactly. Yeah. And I know you asked about how do we deal with the hopelessness or to us, actually, our project is called the Hope Project. And so the name came out, and I always forget, but it's called Healing by Offering Possibilities and Empowerment. So we really wanted it to be about not just, again, knowing you have trauma, but also how for us, the relationship with God and what God has done with us, and so it's about hope, and it's not about just you have trauma and you're going to have consequences. No, you don't have to have the consequences. We're trying, to give you hope and empower you to take over, your own body and decisions and things like that. And so that's kind of what we also wanted from the beginning, to be about hope and about empowerment, not just about, oh my gosh, this happened to you and that's horrible. And so that's how we've dealt with it. We see it as we understand that it's not going to resolve every single issue. Again, they're still going home and experiencing some ACEs. But we are planting seeds, like you said. We are planting seeds, and we've had kids that have gone through a lot of trauma, never talked about it, and for the first time are talking about it now, either in counseling or in other interventions. So in the art classes, they're learning how to put their feelings, their emotions, their thoughts into art. I'm talking to one of the interns about doing like a poem group, like where they can write poems or music or something to express themselves. So it's about teaching them how to take their emotions and feelings and bring them out so that they don't have to keep them all inside. So that's kind of how we've dealt. And I haven't felt hopeless since we started. I actually, see the changes. I see the hope that even those that are still experiencing ACEs and that I know that are experiencing, we see the hope in how they're growing. So,
and that's priceless right there. That's priceless.
Yes.
Keisha, did you have something? I'm trying to share the mic because this is good. I'm just sharing content. Like I want this information to be accessible to people who are looking for ideas. And I asked Keisha if she had a question, and I kept talking. I went straight through that red light. So give me a minute.
I don't have a question, but I am absorbing everything that you're saying. And while you're talking, I'm also looking at the ccfhf.org website. So I'm tag teaming, I'm watching you, listening to you, and looking at the website. Like there's so much that they're doing. And although it's so much that's happening, it just seems like in certain areas we're missing it. Like they're missing the mark to be able to do what you're doing. And a lot of times, to me, doctors seem like they, money is what drives them. So you got 5 minutes with a patient. I'm one of those patients that they look at me like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to spend 15 minutes with her. Yes, you're gonna give me my whole 15 minutes because I got questions. I need answers. I don't want a nurse coming in here telling me all the things that I'm asking you. And no disrespect to the nurses, but the doctors just come in, probe, point, stick, and leave. You're like, hold on, at least give me a conversation. After you've done all that to me, talk to me. So that would be me. So when I go into the doctor, they're like, oh, okay, let me go ahead and sit down because she's not gonna let me leave. I don't care how much I creep to the door. But for what you guys are doing, I just think there's so many doctors, so many practitioners are missing the mark on what could help so many of us.
Yeah. How conversation.
That's it.
The study was founded from a doctor having a conversation. The whole ACE study got started because he asked her how much did she weigh the first time she was sexually active, and she said 40 pounds. A doctor asked her that, and it's probably like unheard of. Now, and it's not doctor bashing, but I know people who've been seeing the same doctor for probably 15, 20 years for the same disease.
Right. And nothing has helped.
And they not one time have we talked about your trauma from your leftover residue, right? But then again, I know it's only so much you guys can do, but I will say, if I can highlight one other thing that I'm hoping that the information y'all are sharing with us does, is we're creating stuff to take to the people, right? Like you build it, they will come, right? If we put the right marketing efforts and the right people behind the conversation, whether they're in a white coat or whether there's somebody that they look like they're not going to call CPS on me if I disclose this story, right? If we're creating safe spaces and taking this information to them because they may be too busy to come to the next LinkedIn live, right? We're educating people that look like them and that live in places like where they live, their parents, their friends, their cousins. Like people are getting access to this information so they can bring it up when the time is right. And it's not necessarily a dog and pony show either, right? Like it's information that has a life back guarantee, in my opinion, right? You think about a money back guarantee, you learn this, and that's a life back guarantee, in my opinion. So y'all are just creating spaces, but go ahead. I'm sorry. I just get really passionate about it. So I'm not sorry about getting passionate about this.
No, that's great.
Sorry.
No, we are too. So I did want to say, I think, we talk about doctors and we see it here. We all come with a different perspective, right? And when I worked at the Juvenile Assessment Center, we had this conversation. I had this conversation with the interns because they would complain, oh, the police are rude. They don't smile. They don't, And so I would always say we all have different jobs and different trainings and different perspectives, right? And so for me as a social worker is how can I meet you where you are, right? For a policeman, it's are you following the law or not, right? For most policemen. And so and for the doctors is, are you taking care of your health? Like, are you doing this and this and that, right? So I think, one of the things that we talk, because we're multidisciplinary, so we talk about, the different perspectives. And so it's hard for somebody, it's hard for somebody that hasn't been trained in it. We struggle as a clinical social worker, struggle with asking the suicide question from the beginning, right? Like that's not easy to ask somebody. That doesn't come in conversation when you're growing up, right? And so I think, being kind of looking at it from a different perspective is, and thankfully our providers here are very humble and will listen and will, we talk about things and we come to different conclusions, but we all come from a different lens and a different training and a different perspective. So I think most people that learn about this and just different things would be willing. It's just, it's like Michelle said, teaching them or educating on the process, right? One of the things that we talked about and I think Dr. Hardy was the one, like at the beginning said, I want to know which of the traumas they have when I ask, because I think it's important to know. And so I said, what are you going to do with that information in the room, right? Because if you open that box right there, you have to address it. Well, he wasn't thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to ask trauma and that could bring up a lot of stuff. But as a social worker, of course, that's how I think, right? Like, how am I going to close this wound if I'm not available to help with that situation? So again, I think it's just different perspectives and different trainings and different ways of looking at the situation. We look at the same patients and we look at different things. And that's okay. So I think some of the answers could be not necessarily kind of going through the doctors and saying, you have to do this, but how about creating multidisciplinary teams where you have people with different perspectives that could bring, that can help you if you don't know how to speak to the patient about trauma, if you can ask that suicide question or just different things like that. So I always advocate for that, for a multidisciplinary team, because I know and understand, like I think differently than even a mental health counselor, right? And we're in the same field, but we are trained very differently. So I think that might be more of a solution, like bringing just different perspectives, so that if I don't feel comfortable talking about, whatever, then somebody else in the team can come in and fill that gap. So that would be something that I think, and I think many doctors' offices are hiring social workers and having people in there to fill those gaps and do I get calls a lot about positions on medical, offices and things like that. So I know that they're trying, but I think that might be even a better answer than just expecting everyone to do everything. Right?
I preach to that. I preach to that. I believe that I don't think anybody needs to be the silver bullet. I think all of us are a part of the formula. Like we are all a part of the solution. And yeah, Step number 1, develop a multidisciplinary team if you feel uncomfortable. Like some of us don't do sales.
Exactly.
What do you do when you don't do sales and you have a product that needs to be sold? You hire a sales team.
Yeah.
It's just, Michelle, what would you add? Anything would you like to add?
I completely agree with that. I don't think we would have been successful without our multidisciplinary team. At doing this, it's hard, it's hard to use the word success, I guess, but seeing the hope.
Mhm.
I feel like we do see such hope because we all really do work together, and we follow guidelines that we spend a lot of time talking about, hashing out, really looking at how is this work and is it going to be successful? Like, for all of us to say to Dr. Hardy, no, you cannot know which trauma they have. And then recently, one of the providers was having the nurses go in and explain ACEs. And I was like, it needs to come from the provider because they're going to buy into it more. So it needs to come from their primary provider. And Nirvana totally backed me up and said, absolutely, this is the way we plan to do it. This is the way it's going to be successful. And what's so beautiful about that is they know so much more. Our social services team, our mental health team knows so much more than I do. Mm-hmm. But I can at least lay the groundwork, find out the score, and then we call them. And so I know that I'm not just finding out a score and sending this family off to try to figure it out. I know that. So I think that does make it successful. Having the multidisciplinary team and taking the time to figure out how you can be successful at it or find the most hope in it. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
That makes a ton of sense.
Boom, we're going to give everybody an ACEs questionnaire.
Yeah.
You have to figure out, what are we going to do when their score's 14?
Yeah.
What are we going to do with that?
Yeah.
What are we going to do when their score's 4?
Yeah.
What are we going to do with that? And who's going to be in charge of making sure something happens?
Yeah.
So, I think it's going to take time for private practice physician offices to figure out how to make it work for them. But I think they will. The research is compelling.
Yeah.
It's compelling.
And
it's so
the mental health community out there is moving toward it. I mean, for sure. With all the trauma-informed counseling and care, we're moving toward it. It's just going to take a while.
It's going to take a while. And you know what? What is it? Rome wasn't built in a day.
That's right.
We were almost there. So I like to say jokingly, we're guaranteed actually, I think 3 things in life. Well, they say life, death, and taxes. But for some of us, it's life, ACEs, taxes, and then death, right? And since we know that the ACEs are coming, we have to have creative solutions like this, because now we know that there's formulas for it, right? Whether it's having an outlet so that the kids can start to learn about these big and little emotions that they're going to inevitably experience at some time. And for the parents to go through that with them, because guess what? It's not like, what was that toy we used to have when you rolled it, it would pop out? What was that thing? Jack in the Box.
Oh,
yeah. So the knowledge just doesn't come like that. Like, you got to bring it to them, give it to, because if it was that easy, we'd all be, rolling that thing, just letting it pop into us. But it has to be taught, especially to some of our cultures who wouldn't have gotten this.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a part. And so I think creating it and leaving a place better than we found it is the least we could do. Right. And watch the seeds really sprout from this, because it was seeds that got us here. And unfortunately, some of those seeds were kind of stinky. They kind of stunk up the place. So now we're trying to, We try, and to each its own. Like, we did the best we could for a lot of us, but some of those seeds really stunk up the place. And this is our place. So what would y'all like to leave us with? Y'all have graced us with, I think, don't want to kick y'all out early because we will take the PowerPoint in a minute, but what would y'all like, any other golden nuggets or seeds you'd like to plant with us as it relates to this work that you're doing with adverse childhood experiences in the medical field?
I think for me, one of the other things I wanted to mention that we were intentional from the beginning was that the whole staff was prepared. So even about a month before we started screening for ACEs, we did trauma-informed care training for the whole staff. And so they felt part of that. And we explained ACEs so they understood what we were doing and why it was important that they learned about trauma. And so I think that's important in any setting because our front desk people know. And thankfully, Grace, it's an amazing place to be at and for our patients. So everybody has always been, every staff member, every volunteer comes in with a sense of we're here for our patients and we're going to treat you with the most dignity and respect and love. But I think it was important for them that even sometimes expressing that could be triggering for somebody, expressing or saying something that could be triggering for somebody. So that's important, I think, also to have the whole staff and for us volunteers. So we've been every year doing trauma-informed care training to make sure that everybody understands what we're doing.
I think I'm about to sum this up real quick. Keisha, I want to address your comment. Nirvana, thank you for adding that too, because I think I'm walking away with 4 things that y'all are doing. I don't know if that was intentional in your PowerPoint or not, but can I repeat them back to see how close I am? Okay. But Keisha, having advocates for people who are really comfortable with sharing is very necessary. And then Keisha also said they also have to find or create, looks like some insurance jargon code. So insurance will pay for the services. That's a whole nother monster I hear. We don't have to deal with that as lay people. But the 4 things that I heard that you guys are doing, there is trauma-informed staff, meaning probably in the onboarding process, like everybody needs to be aware of what the hospital's values, missions, and alignments and priorities are. And then within that, there's also multidisciplinary teams that people can build in, which is a strategy for prevention. And then I heard partnerships, meaning you all are working with interns from colleges and gap year programs where before we even give you the stethoscope, you're going to walk in your office with this information and you have your internship experience to thank for that. And then last but not least, you said this like 40 minutes ago, and I wrote it down in all capital letters. I'm going to use this like forever and ever. You asked your patients, what do you want? Those are the 4 most powerful words, I think, in the human vernacular. Because now I've cornered you to focus on what do you want? You want happy, healthy kids? We're going to have to talk about these ACE scores. You want happy, healthy kids? We might need to talk about nutrition. We got that too. So it's like a Chick-fil-A 7 days a week. We got everything. It's perfect. Did I get them right? How was it? Is that kind of like?
Oh, that's good.
You did good. I think one thing you can add is that we had opportunities to build resilience. We didn't start finding out these ACE scores till we knew we had some ideas for building resilience in these kids. And I owe all that to Nirvana because she was adamant about it. We're not going to find out these scores till we have some solutions, some opportunities, some hope.
Yeah. They do need to be cloned. I think that's what we can close with.
I don't know about that.
But those
are the types of meetings I want to be in, right? Yeah. Those are the types of meetings I want to be in. Like people are coming up with ideas like that, and
those were fun meetings.
Those were fun.
I don't like meetings, but those were fun.
Those were fun. And it was just a group of us. But I was going to say that we would share this information with anyone that would be interested to do it. In our experience, and we're still kind of looking at the whole process and seeing, what's working, what hasn't worked, how can we tweak it, what's working for our patients. At the end of the day, that's why we're here. And so that's going to be an ongoing process, that because as people come and go, it might change. And so we would share our research, our experience, our program with anyone that would be interested. So that's we never would keep it to ourselves.
I love that. I love that. And I'm going to put this back up here. I think I have, I wanted people, you gave me the website, didn't you? Oh, I put it in the comments, didn't I, Keisha? Did I? I want to put Grace Medical Homes.
We were on the private chat.
Oh,
We
yeah.
couldn't see the comments.
Oh, it's all right. We got it. We got this. Well, it's going to go up. I did have a video. I'm going to add it at the end. That'll just do that promo that it's the three of you guys are all on there talking. So that'll play right at the very end. So it'll be merged in there. I hope that's okay to do. But I really want more people to know about y'all's model. Like whenever I'm in conversation, especially here in Orlando, with even just, I told y'all made me feel at home, even with the little knowledge that I know. I'm always telling people, look up Grace Medical Home, look up Grace Medical Home, so it feels really good to see this vision coming to life, and having space with you guys and just showcasing the work that is being done when you get the information of ACEs in the hands of the general population. We find very wise ways to do stuff with it. And I think you guys have created some very wise actions to helping bring about first generation chain breakers.
Thank you.
Cindy, and I think you need to go back to VCI again this year. You just keep going back.
I am applying. Somebody's going to see what we're doing. Because again, we're just trying to create content so we can take the people like, here, go to these people. We don't have all the answers, but we know somebody that can help you. We literally want to be an octopus in this conversation and just have arms like you all are doing.
Send me your paper again, and I'll help you.
I'm gonna keep coming. Look, when one door is closed, we just keep knocking, and we just gonna keep going. As I said, it wasn't built in a day. So it's been great, you guys, and I really appreciate this. Thank you, Keisha. Keisha is helping me over here. Anybody that wants to donate, let me do this real quick, then hear from Michelle. Anybody that wants to donate to the cause of Grace Medical Home, you can visit gracemedicalhome.org to support their efforts. Again, people are able to get wraparound service from this organization, and they don't necessarily have to have insurance for that. Like, what a beautiful vision that has come to life, and people have an opportunity to sponsor that cause if you'd like to give and find a way to help bring up more people who are trying to have lower A score, who are trying to have kids who have lower A scores than them. That's what I tell people. They say, well, what can we do? Well, step number one, lower A scores. Make sure your kids have lower A scores than you. We could just start there. It's a low bar, but we got to start somewhere. So yes, thank y'all again. Go ahead, Michelle.
No, I was just going to reiterate, if there's any way we can help you come alongside you and helping to educate our community, we're happy to do it.
Yeah. Y'all gave me a business idea. I'm not going to say it because, it's being recorded, but I'm going to chat it later. It's like, hey, I have a business idea. I'm going to send it to y'all. Maybe we got to help these doctors. We could just sit and complain about it, or we could create something. So you gave me a business idea.
I like it.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank y'all.
Enjoy the rest of the class.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, what did y'all think?
I thought it was awesome. They were given so much information and dropping so many gems. And when you said wraparound services, literally they offer wraparound services. Mm-hmm. And I think that's wonderful. And I think if we could clone them and their product and their services and put it in all the communities, right? If we could, but really those that are underserved, like they were saying, they don't have money for a car, barely have money for a bus. The money that they do have, they have to spend it to go to work and come home and put food on the table, right? So it's a struggle for them to be able to show up and do those things. And I like that they are having the mobile one. Mm-hmm. I love that. Mm-hmm. They're getting ready to have the mobile one to be able to show up in the communities where people can't show up for themselves. That is going to be an ultimate blessing. They ought to franchise it, but when they franchise, sometimes it loses, what you're trying to do. Then they could have satellite offices, but they got to make sure that they're here occasionally to make sure people are on the up and up and doing what they're supposed to do. So
checks
I
and
don't know.
balances.
I've been thinking about it too. Yeah, I was thinking about it.
Well, I'm gonna text you. She gave me you and her when y'all was talking. I was like, oh, I think I just rock out a business idea from this, and we already in it. So I'm gonna text you when we get off.
Okay.
Ruby, how'd you feel about it? What you get out of that?
Yeah, I mean, accessibility, and reducing those barriers is so important. I think even, most Americans are pretty limited on the ability to make those connections, get all of those services without having to go to like 6 different places. I really liked how she was like, well, we're not going to ask what the problem is until we have some solutions.
That was fire.
I thought that was really great,
that was fire.
Paired with some resilience, practices, and then be able to know, okay, so when somebody, because I mean, you can kind of know already with the ACEs, template and, the things, okay, that these are potential issues that people may have. And so they already are prepared. Okay, so we're anticipating you're probably going to have an issue, and what a relief to say, and we can help. We have something that can help.
We already done line some up for you. So I'd like it made me think like they look around the corner. They don't just that takes some strategy and some really dedicated people, because that to me is setting the thermostat instead of letting the thermostat set itself, right? Like you got some stuff in place for these people, and we can't just expect people to pull themselves up by the bootstrap, like sometimes you have to walk people through these wraparound services, and sometimes they may not want to start right with the trauma. Help me get my gut right, send me to a nutritionist, because maybe if I eat better I'll feel better, and so the fact that they ask people, what do you want, I think could open up a conversation that actually has a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, well, and to meet them where they're at is going to increase the level of success for actually having some substantial change.
Facts.
So that's beautiful.
Facts. Y'all, I believe in starting on time and leaving early if we want to. Ruby, how's life treating you? You look beautiful. I want to tell you that at the top of the call, and I was all into it. We just started talking.
I can't even really good. Myself. I tried to take a break today and go to one of the springs. I've just been too much on my plate and like super stressed. And I keep telling myself I need to do these good things. But that is something that someone talked about, some somatic stuff, is that sometimes we have to be aware that, meditation and yoga and some of those things can actually be over triggering when your body is not in a state to receive it. And sometimes you got to look at what other resilience builder options you have. And so like, all right, got to get in a new state.
I detect no lies. I went probably like maybe 2 months, maybe 2.5 months without meditating. I just couldn't. Actually, every time I would try, I couldn't. But then now I can do it, and I'm in there for 30, 40 minutes and don't even notice. So I had to give my body a break, and I didn't even realize, like, that's a thing, or maybe it's not. But I think we just have to figure out our own formula, whatever works.
Yeah.
Peace and blessings amongst you ladies. I pray much, 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 much happiness to you. And we will be over text. I'd like for us to like get together somehow over the last month, even just for like our mini graduation. So I guess I'll talk to y'all over text after today.
Yeah, it would be nice if we can have a nice little party, come to the table with, our coffee, our tea, our favorite snacks, play a couple games, and, just kind of end it on a great note.
Let's end it on a great note. We got July because that was our last speaker. So my goal is now I have somebody in the background that's helping me with like condensing the content. And my goal is to now take all of the stuff that we've done with our ACEs stuff and create a compilation of resources that we can just share with the public, like sound bites, especially some of Ruby's sound bites. Ruby got some good sound bites along the way. So, and just give it to the public, and hopefully the public will watch it and, do what they can to learn what they can about ACEs and start their healing journey.
And I'm sure
maybe step. And we still got to do the anthology, but I like the idea of playing some games and us getting together one more time for our mini graduation. So until next time, I'm gonna play a couple of commercial breaks, and I will see y'all later.
All right. Love
See you
y'all.
later, alligator. Bye, y'all.
After a while, crocodile.
After a while, crocodile.
What would have life been like for you if you could have skipped childhood? If you could help people be better, healthier adults, would you? Truth is, the fact that every person on earth had to experience childhood is enough to care about the ACEs matter cause. ACEs are so common that 1 in every 6 people have been exposed. Average childhood experiences, aka ACEs, are like time capsules of a traumatic past and a looking glass into a blurry future. ACEs are one of the root causes to poor employee performance, mental illness, crime, disease, and even poor quality of life, just to name a few. According to the CDC, 8 out of the 10 leading causes of death in the US correlate with the exposure to 4 or more ACEs. If they can be predicted, they can be prevented. ACEs Matter is on a mission to stop generational cycles of ACEs, and you can help by starting a campaign or making a small tax-deductible donation. You can help 1 million families get the support that they need to treat and heal from childhood adversities that have affected their adulthoods. We want to hire, train, and deploy 250 community influencers by the end of 2025. Our goal is to raise $1.3 million in order to begin with operations for this initiative. Donations would go towards mobile deployment of trained trauma professionals, community outreach, and door-to-door awareness. Get involved, see the results, save a life, and repeat. Visit acesmatter.org to learn more. Let's be real, we need to heal.